Most of the stories you hear begin, once upon a time there was a princess, or a dragon, or a wicked witch. But my story begins, once upon a time there was a plain piece of wood. An old man named Geppetto brought this piece of wood home to make a little marionette to keep him company in his lonely room. Geppetto began to carve the wood, and as he carved, he thought to himself,
"What will I call this marionette? Maybe Pinocchio. Pinocchio! Yes, that has just the right sound for a marionette."
Geppetto carved Pinocchio's legs and feet, then the top of his head, then his eyes. Next he made the nose, a pleasant, proper sort of a nose for a boy. But Pinocchio's nose didn't want to be an ordinary nose, and it started growing right under Geppetto's eyes. Geppetto sawed off the end, but it grew right out again. Then Geppetto chiseled it off, but back it grew longer and longer. And as it grew, the nose sang a song.
I am Pinocchio's nose, an elegant nose am I. Of all the noses that ever went nosing, Pinocchio's is the most imposing. Carved from the finest of hardwood trees, home of the sniffle and the sneeze. A noble nose, a fearful nose, a very eager major leaguer, sniffy, sniffy nose am I.
When Geppetto finished carving Pinocchio, he put the wooden boy on the floor and led him around to teach him to walk, talking to him all the time.
"Yes, my boy, soon I'll send you to school where you'll learn to read and write and do arithmetic."
Now, Pinocchio didn't like this idea at all. And the moment he learned to use his legs, he ran straight through the open doorway into the streets, leaping and bounding like a happy rabbit. And poor Geppetto ran after him, shouting,
"Stop him! Stop him! Don't let my boy run away!"
The people of the town of Kalodi, where Geppetto lived, were so astounded to see a marionette running that they simply stared. Finally, a brave policeman managed to hold Pinocchio until Geppetto reached him.
"You little rascal, I think I'll box your ears for you."
Pinocchio laughed right in his father's face, and he said,
Hey, look, Pop, you forgot to carve me any ears, so how can you box them?
"I'll take you home, carve you a pair of ears, and then I'll box them."
Now, when the townspeople heard Geppetto threaten Pinocchio like this, they began to spread rumors. One said Geppetto was cruel. Another said he was unfair to marionettes. Now, none of this was true, but the policeman didn't know it, so he took Geppetto off to jail. This didn't bother Pinocchio at all. He returned home all alone and sat down contentedly when he heard little sounds.
"Excuse me. I say, hey there. I say, hey. I say, hey!
Who's there?
'Tis I, Irving, the world's most intelligent mouse. I've been living here ever since I left my home in the woodwork at the University of Rome.
Oh, well, look, Irving, if you're really a smart mouse, you'll get out of my room.
I'll go, my boy, but only after I've told you a great truth.
Well, okay, but make it snappy, Irving.
Well, some truths are fast, and some are slow, and some are medium. This one is medium slow.
Well, let's speed it up. Make it move, kid. Make it move.
Well, I just want to tell you that life will be difficult for a boy who never listens to anybody else.
Yeah, but listen, Irving. If I hang around here with my father, he'll make me go to school. And school is work. And I don't like to work. Do you know what I really like?
Inform me, Marionette.
Well, then, lend an ear, Irving.
All righty.
I like to work at being lazy. I'm fond of working hard at play. I think that anyone is crazy to live in any other way. I'd sooner sit and blow a bubble. I just don't like to get things done. A hard work can be a lot of trouble unless you work at having fun.
Hey there, Pinocchio.
Yeah, what is it, Irving?
It occurs to me that when Geppetto carved you out of that block of wood, I think he forgot to remove the sap.
Yeah, just get out of here. I know what I want to do. I'd sooner sit and blow a bubble and watch my pop clean up the house. Hard work's an awful lot of trouble, and so were you, my little mouse.
So that's it. Listen, Pinocchio, it's bad enough to be a marionette, but it's worse to be a blockhead.
When he heard this, Pinocchio picked up one of Geppetto's old shoes and threw it at Irving. It hit Irving rather hard, and the poor wounded mouse dragged himself into the woodwork to recuperate. Soon night came on, and Pinocchio grew hungry. He had an appetite that was every bit as large as his nose, but he couldn't find a scrap of food in the house. Tired and hungry, he threw himself in a chair, rested his feet on the glowing coals in the fireplace, and soon fell sound asleep. In a few minutes, his wooden feet began to smoke. Now, boys shouldn't smoke, and neither should their feet, especially if they're made of wood. Soon those wooden feet burned clear off, but Pinocchio slept through it all. He slept until morning, when a knock awakened him.
Who is it?
Geppetto, your father.
Pinocchio jumped up to open the door, but he had no feet. He tottered 2 or 3 steps and then fell flat.
Let me in, Pinocchio.
I can't, Pop. The cat ate my feet.
The cat does not eat wood. Let me in, I tell you, or you'll be a sorry marionette.
But Pinocchio simply couldn't reach the door. Geppetto finally climbed through the window, and when he saw Pinocchio lying footless on the floor, he felt sorry for the poor marionette. He held him gently while Pinocchio told him all that had happened. Then Geppetto took 3 pears from his pocket.
Eat these pears, Pinocchio. They're my breakfast, but I'm glad to give them to you.
Pears? Gee, that's great, Pop. But how about peeling them for me?
Patient Geppetto peeled the 3 pears and laid the peelings on a corner of the table. Pinocchio ate all 3 pears, and now that his stomach was full, he begged for a new pair of feet.
New feet? Why should I make you new feet? So you can run away again?
Oh, no, Pop, honestly. I'll be good. I really will. And, well, I'll even go to school and I'll study hard.
Yes, that's what all boys say when they want something.
Oh, but gee, I always tell the truth, Pop. You know me.
Geppetto finally relented. He made Pinocchio a fine pair of new feet and carved ears on his head. Pinocchio was so happy he jumped up and down in delight.
Yahoo! Oh, boy. And now I'll keep my part of the deal. I'll start school right away.
Good boy.
But I haven't any clothes, Pop.
And so Geppetto, being very poor, made Pinocchio a suit of cardboard, shoes from some bark, and a cap of bread paste.
And now, how about a notebook, Pop? I can't go to school without a notebook.
I don't know what to do about it, Pinocchio. I have no money.
Pinocchio and Geppetto were rather unhappy about this. Then Geppetto silently took off his patched coat and left the house. Soon he returned with the notebook and without his coat. The poor man was in his shirt sleeves, although it was cold outside. Geppetto had sold the coat to buy a notebook for Pinocchio. The next day, Pinocchio started for school, his notebook under his arm, and as he walked, he talked to himself.
I'll go to school and I'll get real smart and I'll earn a lot of money and I'll buy a new coat for Pop. A coat with gold sleeves and with silver lapels and diamond buttons. And every pocket will be filled with chocolate or maybe gumdrop. Say, oh boy, listen to that. Wow, that's great music. I guess I'll follow the music. Then tomorrow is time enough to start school.
And so Pinocchio followed the music. It led him to the grand theater of the marionettes, where the play was about to begin. Oh, how badly Pinocchio wanted to see that play, but it cost 5 cents, and he had no money. He looked around desperately until he found a man who was willing to give him 5 pennies for his new notebook. Yes, the notebook for which Geppetto had sacrificed his only warm coat. Quickly he bought the ticket, and when he found his seat, the curtain was up, and the marionettes were already well into their performance of Romeo and Juliet.
Wilt thou be gone? It is not yet near day. It was the nightingale, and not the lark, that pierced the fearful hollow of thine ear. Nightly she sings on yond pomegranate tree. Believe me, love, it was the nightingale.
It was the lark, the herald of the morn. No nightingale. Look, love, it's not the lark at all. It's Pinocchio in the audience.
Pinocchio, our long-lost brother. It's Pinocchio!
All hail Pinocchio, let's give our friend a cheer. From Rome to distant Tokyo, there's no one like Pinocchio. Now things are all Pinocchio. Pinocchio is here. Long live Pinocchio, his praise is not enough. His nose is simply scrumptious, he's always full of bounce.
And his every beard obnoxious, as a marionette should be.
Long live Pinocchio, let's have him stay for tea. We sing this happy number to praise his piece of lumber. Let's have him stay for tea. Long live Pinocchio, let's give our friend a cheer. Now things are okey-dokey, let's not be so slowpokey, and let's all hail Pinocchio.
Pinocchio is here.
All hail Pinocchio, Pinocchio is here.
Well, when the manager of the theater saw how Pinocchio's presence stopped the entire performance, he was so angry that he seized Pinocchio and hung him on a nail like an old coat. Pinocchio was made of good dry wood, and the manager needed good dry wood for his fire because he was going to cook mutton for dinner. After the performance, he took Pinocchio down from the nail and prepared to use him for the fire. Now the manager, who had long scraggly teeth, shaggy whiskers that drooped all the way to the floor, one green eye and one blue one, wasn't quite as mean as he looked. But he hated to be kind, even when he felt like it. Whenever he wanted to be kind, he tried sneezing instead. And when Pinocchio shouted,
Help! Help! Save me, Pop! Save me!
the manager said,
Gesundheit. Pop! Help! Save me!
Pinocchio cried so bitterly that the manager decided to let him go and use the Romeo marionette to feed the fire. As he prepared to use this poor marionette for firewood, Pinocchio threw himself at the manager's feet and wept so hard that his tears soaked the ends of the manager's whiskers. And if there was anything that manager couldn't stand, it was wet whiskers. Pinocchio clutched the manager's ankles and pleaded,
Please, boss. Save Romeo. Please, Mr. Mayor. Don't throw Romeo on the fire. Please, Mr. Governor. Don't do it. Please, Mr. President. Throw me on the fire instead. I don't want Romeo to suffer in my place.
When they heard this, all the marionettes began to weep. And the manager, flattered at being called Mr. President, said, and he finally agreed to let Romeo go, even if it meant eating half-cooked mutton. The next morning, the manager gave Pinocchio 5 gold pieces and set him free. Pinocchio walked happily off toward home, and soon he met a lame fox and a blind cat. The cat winked, which is a funny thing for a blind cat to do. The fox patted Pinocchio's shoulder.
Good morning, Pinocchio. I know your father well.
Oh, do you? And how is dear old Pops?
In his shirt sleeves, shivering from the cold.
Oh, well, he won't have to shiver anymore. Look.
Gold pieces. What are you going to do with all that money?
Well, I'm going to buy my pop a coat with gold sleeves and silver lapels, diamond buttons and gumdrops in all the pockets, or chocolate.
My boy, you should come with us to the Wonder Field. And when you get there, you must dig a little hole,
Bury your gold pieces, fill up the hole, sprinkle a few drops of water on it, then add salt, lemon juice, and a bit of Tabasco. Then go to bed and wait. And soon the gold pieces will sprout, and in the morning you'll find a tree that grows money the way apple trees grow apples.
Oh, my goodness. How many gold pieces do you think the tree will grow?
Roughly 2,500.
Say, how about taking me to the Wonder Field right now?
And off went Pinocchio, the fox, and the cat.
It's off we go, Pinocchio. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, exactly right for growing gold, right for growing gold. It's off we go, Pinocchio. The weather's right as it can be for growing money on a tree, money on a tree.
On the way, they stopped at the Red Lobster Inn to pass the night. When Pinocchio awoke in the morning, he discovered that the fox and the cat had already left without paying for their dinner or lodging. The innkeeper told him that they would be waiting for him at the Wonder Field. Pinocchio paid the bill with one gold piece and set off for the Wonder Field. On the way, he heard tiny footsteps, the kind of little sound you have to pick up with a tweezer. Looking down, he saw Irving, the intelligent mouse.
Oh, so it's you again. Well, what's on your mind now?
I just want to suggest that you go home and give your father the 4 gold pieces you have left.
More advice, more advice. Listen, aren't you tired of giving advice? Now look, Irving, I'm going to the Wonder Field and nothing's going to stop me.
Well, have it your own way.
The mouse lifted one eyebrow, shrugged his shoulders, and went off at a mouse trot. The moment Irving left, Pinocchio heard a faint rustle. He turned sharply. Behind him were 2 figures on tiptoe, hidden in black sacks. They were thieves, and Pinocchio just had time to hide the gold pieces in his mouth when the 2 strangers seized him. One shouted,
Your money or your life?
Now Pinocchio's mouth was full of gold pieces, so all he could say was,
I haven't got any money.
Hurry up, your money. We haven't got any time to waste.
This must be some kind of joke, for can't you see that I am broke? When you see me, can you doubt that I'm a boy who does without? Hold me by the heels and shake me. You can't get money from a stone. I can't give and you can't make me. My pocket's bare as Fido's bone. This must be some kind of joke, for can't you see that I am broke? Absolutely, positively, definitely, desperately, incontrovertibly.
Say, that's a splendid word, Pinocchio.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Incontrovertibly, broke. Oh, yes, indeed. You know that I'm broke.
Yes. So you got the money in your mouth, eh? I hear it. Come on, spit it out.
The 2 thieves tried to make him open his mouth. With a sudden twist, Pinocchio broke away and ran across the countryside. He could hear the thieves running after him, so he kept on without even catching his breath until he saw a little white cottage in the woods. He rushed to the door and knocked and banged and called, but no one answered. Then he kicked the door. A window above him opened, and a beautiful young fairy with blue hair, a pale face, and a voice like maple syrup looked down at him.
No one lives here, little boy. We've all gone away.
Then she disappeared, and the window closed without a sound. At that moment, the 2 thieves caught up with Pinocchio and grabbed him by the collar.
Now you won't get away. Come on, open your mouth. Let's have the gold.
Brave Pinocchio fought like a tiger. The thieves could not get him to open his mouth. Then the fox and the cat, for surely you know that they were the thieves, hanged Pinocchio by his heels from the branch of a tree and went off to eat lunch. While Pinocchio hung by his feet, the fairy with the blue hair looked out her window and saw him. The sight touched her heart. She clapped 3 times, and a great falcon flew to the window ledge.
Falcon, fly quickly to that marionette hanging from the tree. Cut the rope with your beak.
The falcon flew so fast that he returned 2 minutes before he started, carrying Pinocchio. He lay him on a bed in the fairy's cottage. She called 3 doctors to examine him. They conferred for an hour, and then the chief doctor gave the diagnosis.
This lad is suffering from acute rascalosis, complicated by escampeitis, chronic disobediences, and a severe head cold from hanging upside down.
The doctors left a white powder medicine for Pinocchio. The fairy put it into a glass of water.
Here, Pinocchio. Drink this and you'll soon be well.
Is it sweet or bitter?
It isn't sweet, but it will do you good.
Oh, well, if it's bitter, then I don't want it.
Drink it, and I'll give you a lump of sugar to take away the taste.
Well, give me the sugar first, and then I'll take the medicine.
Promise?
Promise.
Pinocchio ate the sugar and licked his lips.
Now keep your promise and drink the medicine.
Oh, I just can't drink the medicine. I just can't.
Why not?
Why not? Oh, that's a good question. I don't have an answer. Because the pillow is too close to my feet.
I'll move the pillow.
Oh.
There. Now drink it.
Well, I can't. The door is open.
I'll shut it. Now drink it.
Oh, honestly, I can't drink it. It's too bitter.
The fairy sighed and clapped 4 times. And 4 rabbits entered the room.
Rabbits, take this marionette back to the tree where you found him.
Oh, no, please. Please, fairy, don't. The thieves will get me again. I'll drink the medicine right now.
And he did.
Excuse me.
And soon he was well. Then he told the fairy how he had fallen into the hands of the thieves.
But what did you do with the 4 gold pieces?
Oh, I lost them.
Now this was a lie, because he had them right in his pocket. And the moment that lie was out of Pinocchio's mouth, he heard a great creaking and groaning. It was the sound of his nose suddenly growing longer.
Where did you lose the gold pieces?
In the forest, near here.
Good. Then we can find them in the morning.
Oh, now I remember. I didn't lose them. I swallowed them when I took the medicine.
Well, his nose just couldn't stand that lie. It grew so long that every time Pinocchio tried to turn around, it hit the wall or a door.
Ow! Ooh!
You see, Pinocchio, some lies have short legs. Others have long noses. You tell the long-nosed kind.
Now Pinocchio couldn't get his nose through the door, and he began to cry. The fairy let him cry for a long time. Then she clapped 5.5 times. A flock of woodpeckers flew in the window and pecked Pinocchio's nose down to its proper length.
Oh, fairy, you're so good to me. I really love you.
I love you, too. And if you wish, you can live here and be my brother.
Oh, I'd like that. But my poor pop.
Oh, that's taken care of. He'll join us before night falls.
Oh, say, that's great. Let me go out and meet him.
Very well. Take the road to the forest. And be careful not to lose your way.
Off ran Pinocchio, but as soon as he had reached the great oak tree, he saw the fox and the cat. The fox ran up to Pinocchio as though he were an old friend.
My dear fellow, how did you ever get here?
Oh, it's a long story. You see, after I left you at the inn, 2 thieves tried to rob me.
Oh, scandalous, infamous.
Yeah, but now I'm on my way to meet my father.
But not before you bury your gold pieces in the wonder field.
Well, how far away is it?
Only 2 miles.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. All right, I'm with you. It's off we go, off we go. Pinocchio, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, exactly right for growing gold. Right for growing gold, exactly right for growing gold.
And off they went to the wonder field, where Pinocchio buried his 4 gold pieces, watered them, and added salt, lemon juice, and a bit of Tabasco.
Attaboy, Pinocchio. Now come back in a half an hour. The gold tree should be blooming by then.
Pinocchio went away and returned in a half hour. He looked for the gold tree. He found plum trees, and apple trees, and orange trees, and even a steak tree that grew sirloin steaks, medium rare. But no gold tree.
Yeah, hey, who is that that's laughing?
'Tis I, Irving, the intelligent mouse.
Oh, it's you again.
Yes, sir, and I'm laughing at a simpleton who believes everything he hears. Don't you know the fox and the cat have run away with your money?
Well,
The situation reminds me of a poem by William Shakespeare, a famous mouse poet. The title of the poem is, In This Our Life. I shall recite it. In this our life, someone is always trying to get something for nothing, and he ends up getting nothing for something. In this our life, someone is always trying to grow money on trees, but the trees insist on growing apples and chestnuts. In other words, my little wooden head, you goofed. You blew it. You should have stood in bed.
Pinocchio fell to his knees and frantically dug up the ground. He dug until he almost reached China, but of course, he found nothing. The gold was gone. Sadly, he set off for the fairy's cottage. On the way, he became very hungry, and he jumped over a fence into a field where he saw some grapevines. But as soon as he reached the grapes...
ow! Oh, help! Help! My foot is caught in a trap!
Oh, so now you're in more trouble.
Oh, Irving the mouse. Oh, boy, am I glad to see you. Hey, Irving, please, help me get out of this trap.
How did you get into it?
Well, I just wanted to pick a few of those grapes in the fresh...
Excuse me.
Huh?
Who taught you to pick OPG?
Well, what is OPG?
Other people's grapes.
Oh, come on, please, Irving. Stop with the jokes and let me out of this trap.
Irving began to feel sorry for poor Pinocchio and let him out of the trap. Pinocchio picked up his wooden heels and ran toward the fairy's cottage. But when he arrived, no cottage was there. Where the cottage had been, he saw only tall grass and hundreds of daffodils. He asked the daffodils if they knew what had happened to the fairy, but they all shook their heads no. Then Pinocchio sat down in the grass and rested his head on his arm. He felt sadder than he had ever felt in all his life.
Where, oh, where is my fair, fair lady? My lovely lady with blue, blue hair. Will I hear her voice so light and airy in valley shady or meadow fair? Where, oh, where is my fair, fair lady? My lovely lady with blue, blue hair. Gee, it's awfully lonely without the fairy. Talking to daffodils is all right, but it's sort of one-sided. And they can't tell me what I want to know.
As Pinocchio was mourning his dear fairy, the falcon flew down to see him, bringing terrible news. He had seen Geppetto at the seashore where the old man was making a canoe to cross the ocean. Poor Geppetto had searched all over for Pinocchio, and now he was going to look in foreign lands. Then the falcon offered to let Pinocchio climb on his back and fly with him to the seashore. Off they flew, high above the clouds, but when they arrived, Geppetto was gone. He was far out in the ocean in a little canoe that bobbed up and down, tossed by furious waves. As they looked, a terrible wave struck the canoe. Down it went, and they never saw it again.
Oh, I've got to save him.
Pinocchio plunged into the water and swam bravely out. For hours and hours he battled the waves, and then a friendly dolphin passed.
Oh, say, Dolphin, have you seen anything of my pop Geppetto and his little canoe?
Well, I have sad news for you, Pinocchio. The great Blubberolo swallowed your father, canoe and all.
Well, who is the great Blubberolo?
Don't you know? Why, he's the largest fish in all the ocean, and the hungriest.
There was nothing for the unhappy Pinocchio to do but swim on. Early in the morning, weary and hungry, he reached a little island where he rested. Then he begged for food, but the island people said he would have to work for it. Now, Pinocchio still didn't like the idea of working, but when a woman offered him bread, meat, and apple pie if he would help her carry 2 pitchers of water, he was too hungry to refuse. Yes, Pinocchio actually worked. And when he finished working, he ate. Then, as he looked up at the woman, his eyes opened wide in amazement, and he sat with his fork in the air and his mouth open. The woman smiled.
What's the matter with you, Pinocchio?
Well, you have eyes like hers, and hair, and yes, your hair is blue. Why, you're my blue fairy.
Yes, it's true. But you've forgotten all I told you. You've been gone so long that now I'm old enough to be your mother instead of your sister.
Oh, that's great. Now I can have a mother just like other boys. But how did you grow up so quickly?
That's a secret.
Oh, well, tell me, please. I want to grow up, too.
You can't grow up, Pinocchio.
Huh?
Marionettes are born marionettes.
Oh.
And they stay marionettes all their lives.
Oh, but I'm sick of being nothing but a marionette. I want to be a real live boy.
Maybe you'll become a real live boy if you deserve it.
Well, what must I do to deserve it?
You have to learn to study,
Uh-huh.
to work, and to tell the truth. You can't lead a selfish life. You have to learn not to hide your heart from those who love you.
Your hideaway heart, the heart you never share, is hidden under lock and key, as though it isn't there. Hideaway heart, it's really time you knew. Every heart worth having must be big enough for 2. If you hide your heart away and save it like a miser, then time will make you sad, but never wiser. So tell your hideaway heart that what I say is true. When your heart comes out of hiding, happiness will come to you.
Oh, I'm going to try to be good, starting right now. And the first thing I want to do is to help my pop. Do you think I'll ever see him again?
I think so.
And will you be my mother?
If you'll always love me.
Oh, I will, on the level.
Then tomorrow you start school.
School. Here we go again. Same old story, same old lecture.
What were you saying, Pinocchio?
Oh, well, nothing, but, well, isn't it a little late for me to go to school?
I thought you wanted to grow up and to be a real live boy.
Well, all right. Now, you promised, didn't you?
I promised. Now it depends on you.
And so Pinocchio went to school. He became a splendid pupil and he worked hard at his studies. Most of the other boys liked him, but some were jealous because he was such a good student. One day, a group of schoolmates approached Pinocchio. Their leader was a skinny boy named Matchstick.
Say, come on, Pinocchio. We're all going down to the seashore. There's a great big fish resting on the sand.
Oh, I can't go, Matchstick. School today.
Well, but maybe it's Blubberolo, the fish, who swallowed your father.
Gosh, maybe it is. But the fairy will be real angry if I skip school.
Oh, it won't hurt you to play hooky once. Besides, Blubberola won't be there if we don't hurry.
Okay, then let's go. Last man there is a rotten egg.
Off they ran to the shore. But when they got there, Pinocchio saw nothing but sand and water.
Hey, Matchstick, where's Blubberolo?
Well, I guess he went out for breakfast. Or maybe he's taking a nap.
Look, you, there isn't any fish here. Now, what's the idea of playing jokes on me?
Oh, we just wanted you to play hooky once, kiddo. Aren't you ashamed of being such a goody-goody?
Well, what difference does it make to you?
A big difference. Why, you make all the rest of us look silly. Why don't you be a regular fellow and stick with us? Why go to school when it's much more fun to play the fool beneath the sun with double features and swimming pools? Who needs teachers and who needs schools? I cannot add, I can't subtract, but listen, lad, for this is fact. Why go to school when it's much more fun to play the fool beneath the sun? Oh, scow-a-dow-a-dow-a-dow-dow-dow.
But Pinocchio refused to listen. This made Matchstick and his friends so angry that they jumped on Pinocchio. But he was too strong and brave for them, and he beat them. Then he ran back to the fairy's cottage. There he knocked and knocked and waited and waited. Half an hour later, a top floor window opened and a large snail poked his head out and called down.
What do you want this time of night?
Oh, I'm Pinocchio, the marionette who lives here with the fairy.
Well then, wait. I'll come right down.
Well, hurry, please. I'm very cold.
My boy, I am a snail, and no self-respecting snail ever hurries.
In the morning, 9 hours later, the snail finally reached the door.
Here I am, my boy.
Oh, I'm hungry and I'm so cold. Will you ask the fairy to help me, please?
She's asleep. But if you're hungry, I'll bring you food.
The snail set off, and while Pinocchio was waiting, he heard a voice saying,
Pinocchio, I forgive you this time, the very last time. But I hope for your sake you're never bad again.
And there was the fairy in the doorway. By this time you must know that Pinocchio was the world's champion promiser. So he promised, and he really kept his promise for the rest of the year. Why, he was too good to be true. And when the school term was almost ended, the fairy called him.
Pinocchio, you've been good and you've worked hard. As a reward, I'm going to grant your dearest wish. Tomorrow you won't be a marionette anymore.
Oh, boy!
You'll be a real live boy.
Wowee!
And we'll have a great party to celebrate.
Oh, that's terrific! And so the happy Pinocchio rushed out to invite all his friends, promising to be back within the hour. One of the boys Pinocchio wanted to invite was Matchstick, because he had forgiven Matchstick for the tricks he had played. Pinocchio found him under the porch of a farmer's house.
Say, Matchstick, what are you doing there?
I'm hiding. I'm going to run away to Playtime land. It's the most beautiful place in the world. Want to come along, kiddo?
Oh, not me. Tomorrow I'm going to be a real boy.
Well, so what? Almost 100 real boys are coming with me. Why, Playtime land is the place for us. No school, no teachers, and no books. And every week has 6 Saturdays, 1 Sunday, and 3 strawberry shortcakes.
But what do you do all day?
Play, and then you play some more. How does that strike you?
Well, it sure sounds like the sort of life I could go for, but, well, you better go on without me. Are you walking?
Walking? Of course not. It's ridiculous. A carriage is coming for us.
Oh, well, maybe I'll just wait around long enough to have a look at the carriage.
Well, here it comes now.
And along came a handsome carriage drawn by 12 donkeys, each a different color. The driver was a short, fat man with an oily smile and a coaxing voice. In the carriage, boys were packed too tight to move, but none complained. Matchstick jumped up and sat beside the driver. Then he called to Pinocchio.
Hey, you better come, Pinocchio, or you'll be sorry.
Well, no, I don't think... well, if I do come, where can I sit?
Well, on one of the donkeys.
That did it. Up jumped Pinocchio to the back of a purple donkey, and off went the carriage. By morning, they reached Playtime Land. All about were boys hooting and yelling and playing games, or even cackling like a hen that had just laid an egg. For days and days, the boys did nothing but play.
Say, oh boy, this is the life, Matchstick.
Yeah, didn't I tell you? And you didn't even want to come.
5 months passed. 5 months of nothing but marbles and tag and hide-and-go-seek and baseball. But one morning, when Pinocchio reached up to scratch his head, he felt something long and furry. He tugged at it and suddenly realized what it was. His ear. He ran to a mirror, and there he saw, sprouting from his head, a pair of fine, long donkey ears.
Donkey ears!
Just then, Irving, the intelligent mouse, scampered by. Pinocchio saw him.
Irving! There's something wrong with me.
Of course there's something wrong with you. In 2 or 3 hours you will be all donkey, just like the donkeys who pull the carriage to Playtime Land. This happens to all boys who refuse to have anything to do with books, schools, and teachers.
Oh, Irving, I haven't got any sense. Why didn't I stay with the fairy who loves me? Oh boy, just wait till I get my hands on Matchstick.
Pinocchio ran off to find Matchstick. They both saw each other at the same moment.
Pinocchio!
Matchstick!
Each of them burst out laughing because the other had donkey ears. But then they began to bray, and their arms turned into forelegs, their bodies grew stiff, grizzled hair, and each sprouted a long tail to swish the flies away.
I came to Playtime Land to laugh and sing and play. But now when here's a funny thing, I cannot play or laugh or sing. All I can do is bray. All I can do is bray.
I came to Playtime Land, so teacher wouldn't stay. Now listen, Matchstick, learn the rule, or I must keep you after school. But now I can only bray. Now I can only bray.
All we can do is bray.
Then the driver of the carriage burst into the room, gave them both a good currying, put bridles on them, and led them away to sell them in the market. The road to the market led along some cliffs, below which the sea pounded against the shore. On the way, Pinocchio slipped and fell down, 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 with a great splash into the sea. He promptly sank to the bottom. But the fairy saw he was in danger of drowning, and so she sent a great school of fish to him. Pinocchio wouldn't go to school, but now a school went to Pinocchio. The fish nibbled away at the donkey ears, the tail, the fur, and the hooves, and what was left was the real wooden Pinocchio. So he swam out, and when he was far from shore, the water suddenly rose up, foamed and flashed, and from the depths came the head of the terrible Blubberolo. Blubberolo took one look at Pinocchio, opened his mouth, and swallowed him as easily as a gumdrop. Now, Blubberolo was known for his gloomy stomach. Inside that gloomy stomach, Pinocchio wandered about, calling from time to time,
Help! 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 Help!
Then, as he walked, he saw a little light flickering in the distance. He rushed toward it until he reached a table. On the table was a green candle, and seated in a chair was an old man with a white beard. Pinocchio took one look at the old man, forgot all his own troubles, and leaped for joy.
Father! Father! Oh, I found you at last.
Do I see right? Is this really my dear Pinocchio?
Oh, it is, Father. It sure is.
Oh, son, I've been in this poorly furnished and gloomy stomach for almost 2 years. Since Blubberolo also swallowed my canoe, which was full of supplies, I've had food to last till now. But I'm down to my only piece of bread.
Well, then we've got to get out right away.
What's the use? I can't even swim.
Yeah, but I'm a good swimmer. I can swim with you on my back. Look, I'll take the candle and we'll start right now.
They walked a long time till they reached the back of the fish's mouth. Now, Blubberolo usually slept with his mouth open, so Pinocchio could look out and see the starry sky in the moonlight. They tiptoed over the tongue, climbed up the teeth, took a deep breath, and leaped into the water. Geppetto held tightly to Pinocchio's back. For a day and a night, Pinocchio swam bravely on, but then he grew so tired he could hardly lift his arms.
Father! Father! We're going to drown.
Fortunately, the friendly dolphin swam by and graciously offered them his tail. They both seized it until the dolphin brought them safe to shore.
Oh, my dear dolphin. You've saved my father. Let me give you a kiss.
The dolphin put his nose out of the water and Pinocchio kissed it. The poor dolphin was so moved he began to cry like a baby. It's difficult to tell when a fish is crying, especially underwater. Then Pinocchio and his father went off to find food and shelter. They met a farmer who needed help, and Pinocchio set to work drawing 100 buckets of water from a well. The farmer gave them a fine meal. The town where the farmer lived was so pleasant that they settled there. Pinocchio worked very hard, so hard that he was soon able to buy a new coat for Geppetto. One day, he was on his way to work when he met the snail again.
Oh, hi there, Snail. It's good to see you again. Any news of the Blue Fairy?
I regret to say that she is ill with grief. She thinks that Blubberolo swallowed you, and now she's alone in a hospital.
Well, then, here's some money for her. I was going to use it to buy myself some clothes, but, well, the fairy needs it more.
The snail took the money and really rushed off, moving so fast that other snails looked at him with utter contempt. That night, Pinocchio studied extra hard to teach himself to read and write. Then he fell asleep, exhausted. As he slept, he dreamed that he saw the fairy, radiant and smiling, leaning over his bed to kiss him, and he heard her voice.
My good Pinocchio, because of your kind heart, I forgive you for all your bad ways. Boys who help others willingly and lovingly are really good boys.
When Pinocchio awoke, he felt very strange. Near him lay a new suit of clothes, and when he put them on, he found in the pocket exactly the same amount of money he had given the fairy. There was also a note which read,
The fairy with the blue hair returns to her dear Pinocchio the money he sent her and thanks him for his good heart.
Then Pinocchio pinched himself on his arm. His arm wasn't hard and wooden. It was soft, and the pinch hurt. He jumped up and shouted,
Father, Father, look! I'm a real boy! A real live boy!
A real son. A real live son.
But the old wooden me, what's happened to him?
Both of them looked around until they saw a limp, lifeless wooden doll leaning against a chair, its head hanging to one side and its legs crossed. The real live boy looked at the marionette and smiled, and from the distance came the voice of the Blue Fairy.
save it like a mouse.